The tension in the air was thick, suffocating. "Don't you ever talk back to me," Richard, the senior manager, hissed, his voice dangerously low. "You are nothing here, nothing. Now clean this room properly or don't bother coming back tomorrow." "Sir, I've cleaned the floors multiple times, Nora," the exhausted janitor replied cautiously. But Richard didn't hesitate. He grabbed a full glass of water from a nearby desk and poured it over her head. The cold liquid soaked through her uniform, dripping onto the freshly mopped floor. The sheer humiliation of the act stole her breath. "Now you have something real to clean up," Richard sneered. But little did he know, he wasn't just humiliating a cleaner. He was targeting the very woman who had the power to shatter his entire career. Nora Carter wasn't just a janitor. By birthright, by education, by sheer will, she was meant to lead. As the only daughter of Preston Carter, the founder and CEO of Carter Tech, she had spent her life preparing to take over the company. A Harvard Business School graduate, a recognized Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, and a force in the world of innovation, Nora was a natural leader, but her father had concerns. "You have the intelligence, the education, and the strategic mind," Preston had told her over dinner one night, his wise eyes filled with concern. "But what you don't have, Nora, is experience from the ground up. You don't understand what it's like to work for the company as a regular employee. You don't know how management treats those who keep the wheels turning." Nora had protested, but her father's words weighed on her. He had built Carter Tech from the ground up, starting in his garage with nothing but a dream. He had done every job, engineer, accountant, janitor. He had lived every challenge. How could she lead if she had never truly understood the struggles of the people she was meant to lead? So they devised a plan, a bold, risky plan. For 2 weeks, Nora would go undercover as a janitor at her father's company. No special treatment, no shortcuts, no privilege, just hard, honest work. She transformed overnight. Her designer wardrobe was replaced with secondhand work clothes. Her sleek, straightened hair returned to its natural curls, hidden under a plain cap. Her manicured nails were cut short, stripped of polish. Gone was the polished executive, replaced by Nora, the invisible cleaning woman. Her father arranged everything through a third-party cleaning service, ensuring that no one in HR or upper management would make the connection. The disguise was foolproof. What she didn't know was that these 2 weeks would not only change her career, but her entire outlook on life. On her first night, Nora quickly realized that to many people, janitors weren't just ignored. They were invisible. Executives walked past her without a word, sometimes even bumping into her cleaning cart without an apology. In offices, where people still worked late, conversations continued as if she weren't even there, discussing sensitive company matters in front of the janitor who, in their eyes, wasn't worth acknowledging. She spent her days scrubbing floors, taking out trash, and wiping tables that top executives leaned on without a second thought. Her hands, once accustomed to signing million-dollar contracts, were now raw and red from industrial cleaning solutions. But the worst part wasn't the work. It was the treatment. Some employees were kind, offering simple nods or small talk, but others treated her like a nuisance, a mistake, or worse, a tool to be used and discarded. And no one embodied that behavior more than Richard. Richard Hayes, head of operations, prided himself on running a tight ship. To executives, he was a no-nonsense leader who got results. To the cleaning crew, he was a tyrant. He would invent mistakes, forcing janitors to redo their work for hours. He would move trash cans after they had been emptied, then scold employees for missing them. He watched, waiting for slip-ups, so he could use them as an excuse to unleash his anger. And for some reason, he had set his sights on Nora. "You're new," he sneered on her second day, eyes scanning her up and down. "Guess I need to train you properly." No matter how hard she worked, it was never enough for him. Her first time mopping the executive hallways, Richard kicked over her cleaning cart, spilling its contents across the freshly cleaned floor. He smiled as he watched her scramble to clean it up. But the breaking point came when he poured water on her in front of other employees. As water dripped from her soaked uniform, pooling at her feet, Nora made a silent vow. Richard thought he had power over her. He had no idea who she truly was. For the next few days, Nora gathered evidence. She recorded conversations, noted how employees reacted to mistreatment, and documented every cruel act Richard and others committed against the staff. Then came the day of the board meeting. Executives gathered in the luxurious conference room, unaware that their world was about to shift. At exactly 10 a.m., Preston Carter called the meeting to order. Richard, ever confident, saw Nora mopping the floor nearby and barked, "What is she doing here? Get her out." That was her cue. Nora stood up straight. She pulled off her cap, letting her curls fall loose. She reached into her pocket, taking out her designer glasses and slipping them on. Gone was the janitor. Before them stood Nora Carter, heir to the empire. The room fell silent. Richard's face drained of color as realization hit. Other executives exchanged shocked glances, whispering amongst themselves. Preston Carter, watching it all unfold, simply said, "She stays." Nora walked to the head of the table, her voice calm yet commanding. "I've spent the last 2 weeks working among the people who make this company function. What I witnessed was unacceptable." She clicked a button, and a screen behind her lit up. Footage of Richard's abuses, recorded by security cameras. His demeaning words, his power trips, his mistreatment of staff. "This is what's happening under your leadership, Richard," she said, looking him in the eye. "And it ends today." By the time she was finished, Richard was gone, escorted out by security. Nora turned back to the executives. "This company was built on integrity. We will restore it, starting now." That day, Nora Carter didn't just expose corruption. She reclaimed her company and proved that true leadership starts from the ground up. And as she stepped into her rightful place at the head of the company, she carried the lessons of those 2 weeks with her, forever.